In case you didn't know, tomorrow is the first Republican presidential debate since 2016. It's going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there are going to be 8 Republicans there. My name is Jake Lahut. I'm the campaign reporter with the Daily Beast, and I'm going to walk you through 5 things to look out for in what could be a pretty fiery debate, even though former President Donald Trump is not going to be there. Before we get into it, the candidates on stage are going to be Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at center stage alongside biopharmaceutical entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. They've been trading barbs beforehand. We'll get to that later. Then you're also going to have former Vice President Mike Pence, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley under the Trump administration, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. So the first thing to look out for is simply the visual that we'll have to start the night, which is a Republican Party on stage offering their candidates without Donald Trump. And that image of a GOP without Donald Trump is probably the most important thing Ron DeSantis has going in his favor coming into the night, aside from about as low a level of expectations as you could ask for. Without Trump on stage, even though he'll be doing his counter-programming, he did a pre-taped interview with Tucker Carlson that will air on the night, and then the next day, on Thursday, he'll be arraigned in Fulton County Court in Atlanta. Despite all that, this is the one real good crack these candidates have had at trying to break through the noise and get some attention to themselves outside of Donald Trump. And without him on stage, they're all granted an opportunity that they haven't had so far in the cycle. But the candidate who can benefit from it the most is DeSantis. And as one source who is a pretty dialed-in Republican put it to me recently, if Ron DeSantis can just walk off this stage appearing like the front runner or a plausible face of a party without Trump, that would be a win for him. But he has been having a bit of a free fall in the polls over the last number of months. He's still in second in most polls, but nipping at his heels is Vivek Ramaswamy, who you may not have heard of before, but he's been doing a ton of media blitzes across not just conservative media and podcasts, but local news, offbeat podcasts. He was at an event hosted by Scientologists recently. Vivek has been all over the place trying to get his name out there, but he's been very adamant from the beginning that the debate is his big chance to shine. We also had a report last week where I wrote about how the Ramaswamy campaign has basically decided to wing it and not prepare for the campaign, kind of leaning into that, vibe side of Trumpism. And they ultimately decided that him coming across as more authentic, quick on his feet, and not having overly prepared answers will be a more authentic and, ultimately more appealing version of their candidate for the rest of the primary electorate. That brings us to number 2 with Ramaswamy at center stage. And the one thing about this guy is that, he's younger. He definitely has a lot of experience dealing with the press, but he hasn't debated before. He really hasn't done anything like this in his life. And I think that, while the strategy of trying to come across as authentic to voters by not having pre-canned answers is one thing, and his campaign did tell me that he'll be doing some foreign policy related briefings ahead of the debate. Going into it against some folks here who have some experience, like former Vice President Mike Pence, DeSantis has had some major debates in his career. Nikki Haley has done a number of debates when she was cutting her teeth coming through South Carolina politics. So these are not rookies he's going to be coming up against here. And I think that on the one hand, this could be a huge chance for Ramaswamy to blow up and maybe surpass DeSantis in the polls. On the other hand, this is going to be a lot of exposure for him at one time. And I think that he in particular will be someone to look out for, especially when the DeSantis campaign has broadcasted, or rather the Never Back Down pro-DeSantis PAC, they're technically not allowed to coordinate, they put out this memo where one of the top items they want DeSantis to do is to, quote, hammer Vivek Ramaswamy. The other variable, and it should have taken this long, number 3, Chris Christie. He is so excited for this debate. The highlight of his 2016 campaign was when he eviscerated Marco Rubio on stage in New Hampshire, and he'll simply be doing his classic podium lean, sitting, biding his time, waiting for somebody to make a mistake, whether that's an overly canned line, looking a little robotic, maybe it's simply an overly compassionate defense of Donald Trump or an overly sycophantic way of talking about the former president that Christie will jump all over. So his role here is going to be as kind of the main Trump critic, and at times you might see Christie try to play himself as almost the voice of reason or the adult in the room. Rounding out here, number 4, we have Nikki Haley versus Tim Scott, both South Carolinians, and you got to remember that in the calendar for the primaries who vote in these early states, South Carolina goes 4th. I believe in this year's Republican cycle, it's a bit of an anomaly, and it's going to go ahead of Nevada in 3rd. But regardless, there are only 4 states generally that vote before what we call Super Tuesday, where you have all these big states and they all vote at once. So it's a crucial early state, and frankly, these 2 campaigns cannot afford to have both of them make it to the ballot in South Carolina. They need one of them to have that home state advantage. If the other one is still kicking around by then, it kind of negates the whole point of being the hometown South Carolina candidate. So I would look for them to maybe not attack each other, but certainly, even though these are both kind of, mild-mannered candidates on the trail, they might find some opportunities to go after the likes of DeSantis or other candidates polling ahead of them. And number 5, maybe my personal favorite, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. He's coming into the night as probably the least known quantity in the race. My colleague Roger Sullenberger recently did a really good story about how Burgum got on the debate stage, which was with this bizarre gimmick using gift cards and trying to get people to get a gift card that was worth way more than they were donating, just so they could count as one of the 40,000 individual donors to get him on stage. I think a lot of Republicans thought that it would be the governor of another Dakota in the race, Kristi Noem of South Dakota, but she stayed out. She's a staunch Trump ally, and with Trump in, she's supporting him. So Burgum could be the dark horse sleeper breakout star of the night, but we'll have to wait and find out and see if the Doug Mentum is for real.